Hi, it's Yuko, the former teacher turned instructional designer. I have a lot of curriculum development and curriculum planning experience with a variety of different curricula. So the Australian curriculum, I've also taught the International Baccalaureate as well as the British curriculum. So I thought I would show you a presentation that I completed to explain interdisciplinary learning in the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, specifically combining Japanese Language B, so Japanese for non-Japanese native speakers, and design.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuko and I'm very excited to take you through an interdisciplinary learning journey featuring language acquisition, Japanese B, and design. Interdisciplinary units and the thought of teaching an unfamiliar topic or subject would definitely heighten my anxiety, so let me explain some benefits of interdisciplinarity. Interdisciplinary learning integrates the knowledge and skills of more than one subject, resulting in a rich and engaging learning experience that caters to adolescent needs and development while also creating lifelong learners. Adolescence is a very critical period of development where students' social, emotional, physical, and academic needs are intertwined and in a dynamic period of change. Erikson coined this phase one of identity and confusion, where one's personal qualities must be accepted to reach fidelity, and therefore accept others as they are. Dowden explains interdisciplinary learning in the middle years must be a balancing act of high-quality teaching and learning experiences alongside the multifaceted needs of young adolescents. Bois-Manzilla emphasizes the holistic learning potential interdisciplinary learning offers through promotion of student agency, relevance to the state of global affairs, authentic learning tied to complex real-world issues, and therefore increased engagement. Dowden explains, as without adequate understanding, some interdisciplinary units can become locked into a theme and evolve into what he refers to as farcical units, where students might study dinosaur science, do dinosaur mathematics, write dinosaur poetry, and, well, you get the picture. Dowden reiterates the importance of what he calls student-centered curriculum integration, as bringing students in as part of the decision-making process increases motivation and learning success. Interdisciplinary learning can achieve many of the middle school signifying practices as cited by Pendergast and others, in Flenley and others, such as collaboration by both students and teachers, shared leadership, community involvement, and exposure to relevant and challenging curricula from a variety of subjects and disciplines. So how can we approach interdisciplinary learning in the MYP? Harrison explains, as students emerge from the PYP transdisciplinary themes, interdisciplinary learning in the MYP provides a continuum pathway to theory of knowledge in the DP. The IBO states interdisciplinary learning is purposeful, integrative, and grounded in the disciplines. According to Bois-Manzilla and Jackson, the MYP interdisciplinary unit has the ability to educate for global competence. Firstly, it is purposeful by providing avenues to understanding that is achievable only through a cooperation of subject disciplines. Secondly, the integration of knowledge and skills from two or more disciplines provide depth and breadth. Thirdly, conceptual learning provides the framework for understanding that is grounded in the disciplines. Lastly, Bois-Manzilla and Jackson extend the key qualities of interdisciplinary learning provided by the IB to emphasize the importance of reflection for meaningful learning. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering what an interdisciplinary unit might look like and how to actually teach it. This IDU will combine language and culture from Japanese B and design principles for an inquiry into the global context of personal and cultural expression. This IDU aligns with one of ACARA's cross-curriculum priorities, Australia and Australia's engagement with Asia. ACARA states, understanding of the region's contemporary challenges and opportunities as a necessity. Furthermore, ACARA highlights the importance of Asia's contribution to and custom of design development and consumer goods and services, as well as its position as a global innovator and major player in the economic, technology, and security arenas. The decision to combine language B and design in this interdisciplinary unit comes from the subliminal hierarchy of subjects that seems to exist. Perry and others explains, language acquisition continues to be an area of contention, as language learning does not hold much importance in many Australian households, and indeed schools. In his Furtherance of Language Education, Cummins expresses, languages have been shown to increase higher order thinking and literacy skills. Similarly, design remains unappreciated in its importance, and many undervalue the intricacies behind design innovations, technological advancements, and the effects these have on society. According to the IBO, design is the link between innovation and creativity, and in the case of this IDU, personal and cultural expression. The key concept of communication comes from both language acquisition and design perspectives. This IDU aligns with the following ACARA Year 10 content descriptions. For Japanese, interacting in Japanese, understanding systems of language, understanding the interrelationship of language and culture, and creating text in Japanese. For a combined Year 10 Design and Technologies and Digital Technologies course, which comes under the umbrella of Design in the MYP, the following ACARA Year 10 content descriptions are supported. Technologies in Society, Technologies Context, Materials and Technologies Specializations, Processes and Production Skills, Investigating and Defining, Generating and Designing, Producing and Implementing, Evaluating, and lastly, Collaborating and Managing. Of course, as you develop your IDU, the appropriate ACARA content descriptions can be negotiated with your team and implemented to the requirements of your unit. The related concepts are linked as students explore tone, voice, and positioning in point of view from language acquisition, and the many stakeholders involved in problem solving and product creation through design. When it comes to conceptual learning, Milligan and Wood warn of the danger of preconditioning concepts to the point where inquiry reverts back to traditional didactic learning practices. Remember, there is no end point to conceptual learning, and learning is cyclical. Japanese fashion, car, architectural, urban planning, video game, graphic, multimedia, and industrial design are all innovative expressions of unique points of view. The statement of inquiry explains students will look at Japanese designers and their points of view, communicating a newer, improved product and/or stylistic creation inspired by that designer that exhibits personal and cultural expression. Lastly, the inquiry questions draw on higher-order thinking strategies, asking students to identify, analyze, and evaluate their information, as well as incorporating multiple perspectives to ensure a holistic user experience and process of development. International mindedness is achieved through development of the learner profile attributes. The integration of language acquisition and design provides a unique opening for a variety of learner profile attributes. The inquirer attribute is encouraged as students find a Japanese designer and research their designs, the history and purpose behind their designs, and justify why these ideals may be relevant to their product or design. Students are open-minded and communicators as they express their chosen designer's point of view, personal and cultural perspective, their own point of view of the design, as well as how it has been received in Japan and other markets. Students are risk-takers as they incorporate inspiration from these Japanese designers and their creations to explore problem-solving strategies and innovations to solve a gap in the market or an issue they encounter. The purpose of integration in an IDU is to encourage intercultural understanding, international mindedness, and a critical lens in understanding multiple perspectives of design, language, and culture. Combining design and language acquisition as a method of exploring Japanese design and culture while simultaneously incorporating design principles and ideas allows for authentic exercise of a variety of approaches to learning. Connected to the inquirer attribute, students practice their research skills to discover and explore innovative Japanese designers and their pieces. The IBO expresses, language acquisition also encourages the development of multiliteracies and multimodality throughout the inquiry and action phases of interdisciplinary learning. Pendergast and others state the importance of higher-order thinking strategies as part of the middle schooling signifying practices, and thinking skills, both creative and critical, encourage transfer of learning as students create a plan for an original product, using design principles researched earlier. Furthermore, students use their self-management skills and organization to plan the creation of a solution. Embracing the constructivist approach to learning that frames the IBMYP, this interdisciplinary unit will be collaboratively planned by specialist Japanese B and design teachers. However, student-centered learning will be emphasized and teachers will take on a facilitating role as they guide students through the inquiry and provide feedback and feed forward through regular one-on-one reflection meetings. Following the backward design principles developed by Wiggins and McTighe, collaborative planning will begin by identifying the desired results, also known as the big idea, or in this case, the statement of inquiry. Teachers will then create the summative assessment task, or the acceptable evidence of learning. In this case, a performance of understanding. Marshman explains a performance of understanding is not just a summative task, but a learning experience that is informed by flexible thinking and transfer of knowledge and skills to new situations. After reflecting on the statement of inquiry and the inquiry questions, the summative assessment task will involve the creation of a product or alteration of an existing product to solve an issue. Students will then create a Japanese ad for their Japanese designer-inspired product. Students will incorporate Japanese language by using adjectives to sell the product, describing its positive qualities, what it can do, and why it is useful, using multifaceted reasoning. Lastly, teachers will plan the relevant learning engagements and activities that will provide sufficient scaffolding and explicit instruction to allow for student-directed learning to take place. Learning engagements will begin with a hook. Teachers will display a snapshot of famous Japanese designers and their creations. Students could follow up by creating a vision board of their proposed aesthetic, designers, products, and ideas as they research Japanese designers. Once students have found a designer to focus on, they can start creating their product or design, leading to the summative assessment task. Milligan and Wood emphasize the power of conceptual learning as it provides the link between disciplines, subjects, ideas, knowledge, and skills, which makes for a rich learning experience, encouraging transfer of learning and interdisciplinarity. Hughes echoes the sentiment of Milligan and Wood as the availability of information on the internet means students must be able to identify and understand valuable information. And while traveling through Anderson and Krathwohl's hierarchical taxonomy of learning, they must arrive at the top to create and evaluate for meaningful learning. The global context of personal and cultural expression is not only relevant due to the large part language acquisition plays in this interdisciplinary unit, but rather the current state of our globalized world. As the COVID-19 pandemic seems to draw to a close and much of the world begins to return to a state of normalcy, understanding of different cultures, intercultural understanding, and international mindedness are necessary to ensure harmonious existence among the world's inhabitants. As Cummins explains, the identities of all societies are evolving. Miettinen explains the father of social constructivism himself, Dewey, determines culture to be the mutual interaction of humans, artifacts, activities, and practices to understand others. Culture is all-encompassing and expressed in diverse and multifaceted ways. This exploration of learning through Japanese culture and design is but one entry point into an ever-expanding world. Silm and others explain, in an interdisciplinary unit, it is important for teachers from each of the participating disciplines to collaborate and facilitate guided inquiry. The IBO explains the MYP interdisciplinary objectives flow through a cycle of inquiry, action, reflection. Multiple disciplinary perspectives inform inquiry, which is brought together to create action. Then understanding is communicated in a performance of understanding that leads to meaningful reflection of learning. Using Kath Murdoch's inquiry cycle is a student-friendly way to visualize inquiry. In the tuning in phase, teachers can activate students' prior knowledge and use visual organizers to develop a web of knowledge. Teachers can then use the factual, conceptual, and debatable inquiry questions to help guide inquiry. Teachers are facilitators in learning, providing provocations to hook and engage students and adequate scaffolding to support students and their unique learner profiles. In the finding out phase, students use their broad knowledge of the topic, in this case Japanese designers and their creations, in order to begin their individual research, perhaps creating a word cloud of Japanese adjectives to describe their designer. A reflective check-in with their teacher would provide guidance and reassure the student. In the sorting out phase, students categorize the information they have gathered, using analytical thinking skills to determine their design or product, even adapting their questions and direction of inquiry along the way. A reflective check-in with their teacher would provide the feed forward students need to begin developing their product or design. In the going further phase, students develop their product or design and use Japanese language conventions to create an ad for their product or design as a summative assessment task. In the making conclusions phase, students revisit their inquiry questions to reflect on their product or design and the thinking behind it to determine whether it aligns with the big idea or the statement of inquiry. In the taking action phase, students reflect on their learning gained throughout this interdisciplinary unit, how this can benefit society, and why. Similarly, problem-based and project-based learning, which can be considered synonymous with inquiry learning, encourages agency as students are able to relate learning to real-life issues, incorporating the complexities necessary for transfer of learning to issues such as global warming, resource scarcity, and more. Seglem and Garcia express the beneficial nature of inquiry as students develop specific learning temperaments and adapt to become flexible problem solvers who can collaborate for successful navigation of global issues. Well, that was a lot of information. Let me give you a recap. Interdisciplinary learning caters to the developmental needs of early adolescents and provides a holistic learning experience built on academic rigor, inquiry, collaboration, and student agency. Interdisciplinary learning in the MYP is purposeful, integrative, and grounded in the disciplines, not to mention thoughtful and rich in perspectives. Constructivism and backwards design principles provide a framework for collaborative teacher planning that is cooperative and meaningful. Interdisciplinary learning provides unique and novel ways to encourage international mindedness through the learner profile attributes, various approaches to learning, as well as multiple perspectives from the key and related concepts. Now, please remember, this is only a snapshot of one of the possibilities. I'm by no means an expert in design, and I'm always learning, as you are. That being said, I'm always available to listen and guide you on your way to interdisciplinary learning. The subject combinations are endless. Unleash your creativity as you consider new and authentic ways to combine disciplines and collaborate with others. Developing an interdisciplinary unit can seem like an impossible task, but you are all amazing teachers with sound disciplinary understanding that, by your powers combined, you are Captain Interdisciplinarity. Thank you so much for listening. Here are some of my references. And here are the rest of my references.
So thank you so much for watching my presentation on interdisciplinary learning in the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, combining Japanese Language B and design. I hope you're able to see how I use curriculum development and my knowledge of the IB to develop curriculum. I created this presentation in Apple's Keynote. Now, I know the colors are not accessible and it does not at all follow Garnier's principles of multimedia, but at the time I thought it was really colorful and aesthetic. So if you liked this video, then please like, subscribe, and follow along.